What's poppin', y'all? It's your boy, Guardy3. And last year at this time, I was in Philadelphia, going to WrestleMania. It was absolutely a fantastic, two-night event. Of course, my seats were pretty good, as you can see. I definitely enjoyed it. It was indeed historic, from record-breaking title reigns coming to an end on both nights. We had fantastic action in the women's division, Money in the Bank cash-ins. It was everything that you could have asked for, and I really hope I get to relive this all again someday. But I said that to say this. This year, we're going to do another first for the Meaty Boys podcast. Wire to Wire Podcast Network is going to be doing a WrestleMania watch-along for the first time ever. I'm super excited. I can't wait, and I hope to see you guys there.
Yeah. Wake up with coffee and sports. Sunrise glow, listen coast to coast. A flow like you know.
Offensively, who made them? Oh, Patrick Mahomes.
Sideline to sideline with plays to show. This network's got the spark.
When you put up 300 yards rushing against someone, that you got your butt whooped.
I feel like I would have liked to see Oregon Ohio State in the semis, not the quarters. So I think some reseeding is probably where I would change. But
they're out of their mind. They're going to do this 3 quarterbacks in a row.
Here's the crazy.
I just can't take it.
Birds keep flying high, fast cheering loud, and one podcast moving through the crowd. Meaty boys brawling, no holds barred out. This wire life never in doubt. Tune into the vibe.
That's my bold prediction for the show. Devin Booker, in the next 3 years, he will be a Houston Rocket.
Because I still think Seth is still at the top of his game. I do. I think he's right there. Who knows? Maybe. Not this year, but one time soon. Why wouldn't we potentially see Seth and Roman?
Tune in the vibe. Party Rats, good setters. Got me on the mic now, let's spill the tea. Talking courtside dreams from history. Legends on the blacktop now and then. From Will to Steph, we hit it again. Better chimes in, let's go deep. Young blood's rising, can't skip a beat. Puppy prospects with fire in their eyes. Draft night suckers and hoop dream high. Wire to wire, bring the heat. Podcast magic can't be beat. Do better, but go better. We're hoop heads, trendsetters.
What's poppin', y'all? It's your boy, Guardy3, and welcome to the And One Podcast. Of course, joining me just like every week, he is the greatest co-host of all time, and this is part 1 of our quadruple double for you this week. He is Mo Better. How you doing, Mo?
I'm doing great on a Thursday night. We're going to get into some NBA playoff talk. We can talk about the play-ins. It's getting ready to be an amazing weekend. You just pointed out we are in the first leg of our quadruple double, guys. Appreciate everybody for joining us. Let's get into it.
Oh, absolutely. Look at that. Gene's fired up. I'm fired up. Mo's fired up. The chat's fired up. What's good, Andre? Sijin, great to see ya. That Dame news did get me hyped, if anybody didn't see. Dame, it looks like he's coming back sooner than later. It looks like that the blood clot is gone.
Awesome.
And at this point, it's always good to hear that, because at the end of the day, health comes first. So it's first and foremost, it's great to see that he was able to get past it, and he got past it so quickly. And obviously it's good for the Bucks, because it sounds like we're going to have our point guard for the playoffs. Granted, he's still out for game 1. Makes sense. He's got to work himself into game shape first. But I'm super hyped about that.
You should be. Oh, look, as an NBA fan, I want the Bucks at full strength, because I think if they're at full strength, they beat the Pacers. They advance to the next round. I love that. I love that the chat is live. Everybody's there. Where's Carmike? Where is Carmike? Get him
right
on.
there.
Let's go, Carmike. Make your case for CP3 being top 10. Let's go.
Well, but why don't we start with underrated player of the week? If anybody's just tuning in for the first time, we start off every show by highlighting a player that could be current or just lost in time that we think deserves some love. So, Mo, why don't you give us a start? Who is your underrated player of the week this week?
I'm actually going with a young man that he really did have to earn his way into the league, a little bit overseas, wasn't highly touted, but just an extremely hard worker and found his niche in the league as a terrific one-on-one defender, and he's improved his three-point range. I'm talking about Gary Payton II. I think he's a tremendous basketball player, an elite defender, terrific finishing around the rim, and he fits what the Warriors do defensively like a glove, like his father. So just shout out to Gary Payton II. Great defender, great role player, perfect fit for what Golden State does.
You know, I do love the fact that you made sure to slide in the like a glove comment referencing his great father, Gary Payton. I completely agree. I think he's been fantastic for them, and I'm looking forward to seeing the Warriors just come playoff time. Them versus Houston has got to be like one of the more like harder rounds to predict.
It is.
And Houston has a great team, but we've seen young teams just kind of falter under the spotlight because this is a lot of these guys' first times in a playoff game like this. So we'll see if the lights are too bright or what happens, but I'm excited for that series. My underrated player of the week, Mo, because listen, we've been talking all about the Phoenix Suns, and you know everybody likes to talk about what went wrong with the Phoenix Suns. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to talk about one thing I think they did right, and that was drafting Ryan Dunn. Listen, I want to give Ryan Dunn his flowers. I think for a guy who has just plunged in and out of the lineup consistently, I thought he came in and did exactly what they needed him to do. Play fantastic point of attack defense. I thought he was an elite defender and just, you know, did what they needed him to do. He's still got to work on his jumper. That's okay. But out of all the things that went wrong for the Phoenix Suns, I think picking up Ryan Dunn was a great move, and I think they found one of their wings for at least the next 5 to 7 years, maybe longer.
I like the Ryan Dunn move. I like that you called him out and gave him his flowers. It is one of the few good things that the Suns GM has done in recent seasons. Let's hope that he doesn't end up moving Ryan Dunn in a trade offseason. Look, talented guy, like you said, terrific wing defender. He's gotten a lot better at making himself part of the offense. Again, we both agree he needs to extend his range a little bit more, get into his bag off the dribble more. But I think I'm looking at one of the top future 3-and-D guys in the NBA.
Caden Green about to make a run. Yeah, I could see it. It, like I said, both teams are interesting because like it's a lot of young guys with first-time experience in a big game. So we'll have to see how they react.
Who's making a run? I didn't hear that.
Pistons and Rockets. I can see them both. I can see them surviving to the second round.
I don't think the Rockets can beat Golden State. I know there's a lot of things that say they should. Their depth, their athleticism. Golden State is probably they're not one of the more athletic teams, and the Rockets are. I would also point out, though, that the Rockets are probably one of the worst, if not the worst shooting team in the postseason. They have no shooters. Their best offensive player is one of the most inconsistent players in the NBA. And their big, Şengün, while he's skilled, he's soft. I just don't see them winning. They don't have a closer. I don't think Golden State's going to the finals, but they're definitely going to advance to the next round because the Rockets are the perfect matchup for them.
I think that it's almost a perfect matchup for them too, because when we see young guys get in the playoffs, they kind of start making mistakes, right? And they're mistakes that they happen to have guys that can capitalize on. You're going to if you get sloppy on defense, well, then guess what? Steph's going to get open threes, but maybe they just lock in on Steph shooting open threes. I think Jimmy Butler's going to go nuts in the first round. I think the Rockets are going to make some, young rookie mistakes. They're going to be over physical, and Jimmy's going to eat that alive between his, get into his mid-range game. And I think he's going to live at the free throw line. I think Jimmy's going to surprise a lot of people by how many free throws this man's about to get in the first round.
I'm glad you pointed that out. The Rockets are a talented defensive team, but they can be undisciplined at times. If the refs are going to let them play and allow a lot more contact, that bodes well for Houston because they are a little bit undisciplined at times. If they call it close, I think both Steph and Jimmy Butler are shooting 10 to 12 free throws a game.
And that's just kind of a nightmare for the Houston Rockets because that team's great. They're young. They like to run in transition. But the problem with the Rockets is I'm still not necessarily sold on their half-court offense at times. Like, I'll live with Draymond on Sengun every day of the week. If the offense comes down to Jalen Green give us a bucket, he's really inconsistent. So I can live with that too. I
think Golden State will live with that cross matchup, right? Because going the other way, they would love to keep Sengun on Draymond. Draymond's playing 23 feet from the basket, setting picks, which means Sengun's got to play in space. Because if you can't play drop coverage against Golden State, if you play drop coverage, you're going to get destroyed.
Banchero for the upset. I would love that. Kyle wouldn't, but I'd love that.
Who's Banchero upsetting?
Say Boston.
Maybe in 2K, not in real life.
Hey, listen, I'm sad, Mo. The 5-year rivalry of the Hawks and Celtics somehow always matching up in the first round is over.
Right.
I don't get to watch Trae Young get, blitzed and just have an awful series again.
It's a nice change up. Look, I'll say this. When you've got those two booking forwards with Paolo and Wagner, if they both can get off and a third guy can give you, let's say, 16 to 18 consistently, it could be an interesting series. But if you go strength on strength, let's assume both teams play at the highest levels they're capable of, it's a short series and Boston wins.
It's funny, Mo. It's really that offensive part that worries me because the funny part is the Magic guard the Celtics maybe the best in the league. They're amazing at guarding the Celtics. They have the length, the size, and the discipline that they do great. The problem is they forget that part of basketball is putting the ball in the basket and not just clanking it off the rim. So
that's the key, right? They're not, their offense is it's not high powered. It's not one of the better offenses in basketball. They can play elite defense and still get swept in this series. That's all I'm saying. You pointed out the obvious. They might be able to slow the Celtics offense down, but the Celtics defense is good enough to definitely stifle their already struggling offense.
Absolutely. And, I was going to talk some, playing to start, but let's be real, Mo. Is there really a lot to say about the Magic and the Hawks besides better luck next year, Atlanta?
I was going to say, besides, thank God we don't have to see that again. I don't want to see that again.
Yeah. Better luck next game because they get the dream matchup. We get Heat Hawks for the second play-in spot on who gets to get swept by the Cavs in the first round.
I'm not gonna lie. I have no idea who's gonna win that game.
I'd say that's the one good thing about that game. It's actually very unpredictable. What happens after in the playoffs is very predictable, but that game itself is actually just could go either way.
Right.
Mavericks, Kings. What's more to be said besides the Kings should just blow it up at this point, but I don't even trust them to do that.
Well, they started right away. Right after the game, GM fired. And I'm like, of course you're going to fire the GM. Wait a minute. You don't want to pay De'Aaron Fox. I get that. I don't think I would want to pay him a supermax either because I don't think he's a supermax player. I get that. If you're on a contending team, if De'Aaron Fox is your second best player, you're probably a pretty good basketball team, like he currently is with the Spurs when they're fully whole. But as the leader, as the best player on the team, he's going to get you to the first round at best. And you're not even getting out of the first round. So my problem with the Kings is not that they moved De'Aaron Fox. I thought they should have done a better job of what they did bringing in. You get rid of De'Aaron Fox because you don't want to pay him, and then you bring in playoff kryptonite Zach LaVine. I don't get that.
Yeah, and the fact, and you know what the scary part is, Mo, like, I think they're just kind of stuck with this core too. Like, I think you could trade DeRozan and making 24 million. I don't think will stop anybody from trading for him. But I think the duo of Levine and Sabonis, they're just kind of stuck with. And because Zach LaVine, Mo, next year, 47 million, 43 million for Sabonis next year. I don't think anybody's touching that.
No, and I know we spent a lot of time killing Phoenix because of the Bradley Beal contract. Zach LaVine is just a light-skinned Bradley Beal. They're the same guy. If you rank them on talent, they're like probably top 10, top 15 talents. But if you rank them on what they do and what they impact in terms of winning, they're not winning players. They both are playoff kryptonites. And no one's taking Zach LaVine's contract off your hands. You're married to him until that contract runs off. I would say this: Sabonis is a really good basketball player, but he's not the kind of player you can build around. And there are teams that value him. If I could move him, I would move him.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see, he has the Grizzlies beating. He says the Grizzlies will beat the Mavs. Yeah, probably. Like I think that's what happens. Grizzlies knock off the Mavs.
They should. They're a more talented team.
I think the Hawks will end up knocking off the Heat. So, yeah, I think I will say Warriors Grizzlies though, ton of fun to watch.
It was an interesting. And here's the crazy thing: go back and look at that game. The Grizzlies shot better from the field 46% than the Warriors did. They shot better from three than the Warriors did. They shot better from the free throw line than the Warriors did. But when you turn the ball over 19 times, when you have a very undisciplined basketball team, especially from the offensive standpoint and defensive standpoint, you're going to lose games. Think about how the game ended. The game ended because they couldn't inbound the ball. Come on, man. Yeah. That's a coaching thing. And you just brought in your new coach and he don't have an inbounds play?
Yeah, that was just awful. Like, and the funny part is, Mo, like, they're in a unique, like, spot with Memphis. Like, okay, on one hand, like, you can claim you have your core locked into place, but then you have to ask yourself, how far is the big three of Ja, Triple J, and Desmond Bane, like, taking you? They have a lot of really, like, solid but role players, but I think they're in a good spot. I think they could very well climb back up the West. But I think it's a legitimate question, like, because now Jaren's probably going to end up being eligible for a Supermax, and they're going to start running out of money to pay extra guys. So I think they're going to have to start either maybe move one of their stars for more depth around them or consolidate some of their talent to just higher end depth. Like,
they have to trade one. They have to trade somebody. They do. That they're a small market team. You're right. What he's going to be eligible for. Here's the thing. You like Jaren Jackson. I think a lot of teams like Jaren Jackson. He's a terrific weak side defender. I think his one-on-one defense has taken a huge step back, but he's still a terrific weak side defender. My problem with him is another component of defense that doesn't get talked about enough is rebounding. Your power forward can't average 6 rebounds a game. He can't. He is a horrible rebounder. And part of that is he spends too much time on the wing on the offensive end, so he gets no offensive rebounds. But on defense, he doesn't have a natural instinct to pursue the basketball. And I can't pay a power forward who gives me 6 rebounds a game and isn't quite the defender that he was on a consistent basis a Supermax. That's insane. I would have to really look at, and let me point out something that we don't mention enough. Their most consistent player, it's not Jaren Jackson. It's not John Morant. It's Desmond Bane. The other two might be more talented, but he is the guy that you can rely on. He is Mr. Consistency. Honestly, they have no leadership on that locker room, in that locker room at all. Not obviously not in the coach. Dude just got there. Your 3 best players, your 3 core players, they're not leaders. John Morant, the face of your franchise, he's a lot of things, not a leader. I would be shocked if they didn't pursue trading Ja or Jaren Jackson, but one of them's going to go, because you started off with they have an interesting core, but is that threesome ever going to be the best threesome in the West? The answer is no. They're never going to be the best threesome in the West. They're not. Because the way that works is one of you guys out of your three would have to be one of the best players in the West. John's not one of the 5 best players in the West. Jackson's not one of the 5 best players in the West. Bane's not one of the 5 best players in the West. They have stars. Don't confuse a star with a superstar. They don't have a superstar on that roster.
No, and that's absolutely fair enough. I'm definitely looking, yeah. And you know what's funny, because you start looking at the coaching options, right? Like, well, they could get like, you know, Malone, or they could get, you know, Mike Brown got fired. I don't think they'd go that direction, but like the options that people are going to throw out there are also guys that apparently got fired for losing the locker room.
Yes.
Now, granted, you could maybe bring them in and hope they connect with the new locker room, but also to fire somebody for losing the locker room just to bring in somebody else who lost the locker room in another spot is kind of wild to me. So I'm curious to see how they actually handle this head coaching search.
I like the way you put that. And let's be a little bit more precise. Did he lose the locker room, or did his relationship with the best player fracture, right? Because in Memphis, I'm not sure he lost the locker room. I do know John Morant wasn't happy with the way they were running their offense because it didn't feature just him. It featured he, Bane, and Jackson Jr., and that was a problem for John Morant. My only problem is that coach was trying to save John Morant from John Morant. As talented as he is, as explosive as he is, he's one of the most brittle players in the NBA. He just constantly gets hurt. And he was trying to save him from himself. And he did a really good job. Why wouldn't you want to spread the offense out to where you had 3 guys averaging over 20 points per game instead of everything being pick and roll and centric for one guy? I don't understand that way of thinking.
Apparently, according to reports, it sounds like he lost the locker room because of his, like, apparently he had, you know, he favored players including like Russ and him,
you
like favoring. Yeah, apparently him favoring some of the vets just didn't sit well. Obviously, you know, Jokic is going to be able to do whatever he wants. They max out Jamal Murray. He can probably get away with a lot more, but like apparently Russ was where they drew the line. But I think it's probably deeper than that. But
feels like it.
I feel like he lost the locker room because I think Jokic did seem like a real Mike Malone guy.
Yeah, look, and that could very well happen. So when you point out that Mike Malone's going to be available, let's just assume because of the volatile situation in Memphis, Mike Malone's not going to coach John Morant. That's not going to work. I think he needs to go somewhere where it's a little bit more stable. And, you know, maybe a veteran team, something of that nature, where he can just bring his system and go from there. It's not easy being a coach when your core is young. It really isn't. It's hard in Denver because they're all in their mid-20s, some of them right up on the edge of 30. The core is, and they won a title together. But the problem is the coach and the GM were never on the same page. The coach, the GM, and the owner were never on the same page. The owner's mandate to the GM was don't ever go towards the second apron. But once you agreed to pay Jamal Murray at Supermax, there goes your bench, right? There goes your bench. And it changed the dynamics of the team. You brought in Christian Braun to replace KCP, which was brilliant. He's been better than KCP. The problem, as you pointed out last week, is they didn't get somebody to replace Christian Braun.
Yeah, and you know I think they expected another young guy to step up into his role, but I think they also just had too high of expectations for their young guys. Now, yeah, the coach, yeah, Taylor Jenkins probably was keeping John. It really felt like it, but to an extent. Now, you know what? I got a couple of fun things planned for us. By the way, I know the playoffs start on Saturday. However, if you want to watch us break down playoff games, you can check us out tomorrow on the morning show. I had to save something for the morning show, and I feel, you know, tomorrow morning we're going to be going through playoff matchups.
Love it.
But we got something fun for you guys. Don't worry, because on Sunday, we get to announce awards and award finalists. So I have all NBA team and every single award outside of Clutch Player of the Year because I still think that award's just not even a real award. How I think they're going to go. And if you want to know my Clutch Player of the Year award winner, I think it's going to be Jalen Brunson. But we're gonna go through the NBA awards, all NBA teams, all defensive teams, and I'll show you how I think it's gonna play out, how we think it's gonna play out, and you guys can tell me, do you agree, disagree? So without any further ado, we'll start with the all NBA teams. By the way, this isn't my first team. For my all NBA first team, give me Giannis, Jokic, Tatum, Shea. And I see there's a lot of argument for that fifth spot. I think that's going to come down to Steph and or Donovan Mitchell. And give me Donovan Mitchell. I think he's had just a fantastic season. He's led the Cavs to this historic run they're on. I'm gonna give it to. I think it's as simple as this. I'm gonna give it to the guy who's leading the team with the best record in the NBA. That would be Donovan Mitchell. So.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that first team all NBA.
Yeah, and I think the other four are just locks. Like, I think if somehow any of the other four get bumped to a second team, like, we need to question the voters immediately. But second team, guys, real interesting. And obviously in the comments, I'd love to know if you agree, disagree, tell me how dumb I sound. So I love it all. So second team, got JB, Jalen Brunson, got Evan Mobley. I've heard the talks of LeBron James on first team. I don't think so. I can't go that high. I think, however, he finds a spot on second team. And then, of course, Ant and Steph, who I think actually have a case for first team. Yeah. But unfortunately, there are only 5 spots. So,
no, I love the second team, although, and we could be wrong. Steph may very well end up being on the first team. I'm not so sure about Ant, but I think Steph might end up being on the first team.
No, absolutely. And I think the third team will shape out something like this. Give me Karl Anthony Towns, Tyrese Halliburton, Cade Cunningham, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Jalen Williams.
So the third team is interesting because I think the easiest person to be on third team, at least the two that I would say that's easiest, would be Cade and Karl Anthony Towns. I'm not 100% sold on Halliburton. I just talked about Jaren Jackson's shortcomings I shouldn't say this season. That's who he's been the breadth of his career. He's just a poor rebounder. I don't know. I get why J-Dub would be on there because his team won 68 games. He's the second leading scorer. He's worthy of it. I get that. But I'm not so sure about Halliburton and Jackson. That'll be interesting.
I think the other names that I thought about, and my kind of just honorable mention for this was James Harden, Alperen Sengun, and of course I thought about the name. I thought about guys like Domantas Sabonis, Devin Booker, but it's tough. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, but I'm very.
Book's not going to make the squad because KD didn't make the squad. They had the same season. He's not making the squad. I would say you pointed something out that's very interesting. I would not be shocked if James Harden was third team All NBA defense or all NBA. I think that he could move out either Jackson or Halliburton.
Yeah, and that's the name I'm kind of looking at, right? Yeah, and I think obviously Durant's not eligible because he didn't hit the 65 games. So, I think, that's kind of the 3 names that might pop in. But I think if I'm thinking kind of like the voters, I think Booker will get penalized for the poor season that Phoenix had overall. I think that, Sabonis just doesn't. And I think James Harden, to me, is the one guy that could really sneak into here and throw everything for a loop. But
I like Sabonis as a player. I think you do too. But I feel like for a guy that has led the league in rebounding 2 years in a row, who's a consistent double-double guy, I don't feel like he moves the needle.
No, not really. He's a good floor raiser, but he's also awkward to build around. Like he's a really bad defender. He's not a shooter. He's not really a great one-on-one scorer. Like
Right. That's what I
he,
mean. Like he's definitely a worker, and you can almost make the case he's an overachiever, but he's not the kind of center you could go throw the ball into Sabonis and let him go to work. That's not the strength of his game.
yeah, no, absolutely. So, like I said, I'd love to hear the chat's opinion on this because, like I said, I'm thinking right now maybe my only miss here will be James Harden, and that's okay. But why not move on and have a little fun with the all defensive team? And believe me, this is to me, Mo, the hardest thing to like pick is like defensive team because you can kind of use stats and these different metrics for all NBA team and different awards, but defensive is just a lot of eye test and just watching because like defensive rating and all that captures some like they have some decent defensive metrics out there, but at none of them are perfect, and they're all at the end of the day. This is something that you just kind of got to eye test and hope it kind of match with the metrics. And this is who I have for the first team. Give me Draymond Green, Jaren Jackson Jr., Evan Mobley, Dyson Daniels, and OG Anunoby.
Now, I love the team, and I think OG will be all NBA defense. I just don't think he'll be first team. I think he may get moved out from Amen Thompson. I think Amen Thompson's been a better defender throughout the season. If you look at the Knicks and OG's part of that team, they're a middle of the pack defense at best. I think defensively, both he and Bridges have kind of took a step back. I think that Amen Thompson might be one of the best defenders. He's probably for sure right now today one of the best best three one-on-one defenders in all the NBA. Like everybody that's on the first team right now, none of them is a better one-on-one defender than Amen Thompson.
Hey, fair enough. And hey, because listen, don't worry, I didn't forget about Amen. I got him hanging out on the second team here. But I'll be happy, Mo, if I get the 10 names right, honestly, no matter what the order is. But
I feel you.
I completely agree because for me, it came down to either for that last spot, Amen or OG. But there's another guy who actually really wanted to put on there, and I think could also get a spot. Well deserved, by the way. Shout out to Nami Cameron on Portland there.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah,
I think that he could get a spot. But it feels like the defensive race is just so tight this year because the Thunder had 27 players that are probably worthy of being on this team.
Yeah,
Giannis and Gobert are staples, and I think these four have a spot kind of locked up. So it's like now you got OG, Amen, Jalen, Dort, Cameron. You have Bam, Tatum. We got 7, 8, 9 guys fighting for 4 spots.
You know what's interesting about this is it wouldn't surprise me if SGA made third team on all NBA defense. It wouldn't shock me at all.
It wouldn't shock me either. I will die on this hill that we have an all NBA first, second, and third team. I think it's time for an all defensive third team.
Yeah, I agree. He's worthy of it. A lot of players are worthy of getting that kind of flower.
Right.
I think Derek White was tremendous again for the Celtics. I don't think he took a step back at all. And maybe, like I said, he might take one of these guys' spots. I don't know. If he takes anybody's spot, my guess is it would be J Dubs.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. A part of me wants to say Dort, but all of a sudden we're hearing the media agenda start to push Dort, and that's huge in these races. Dyson was there. Dyson's on the first team. Bam's another one. I could be wrong. You could throw Bam on there too.
I don't think Bam gets all NBA defense this year. I don't think he had that good a year.
And that's the hard part, Mo. And this is why I think that we're at a point where I think they should add a third all NBA defensive team. So, and I think, I agree though with SGA. I think he can make it too, and I think it can knock out J-Dub or J-Dub or Dort, or maybe even Gobert or Giannis. It's funny because Gobert and Giannis are almost like staples for the all-defensive team. It feels like they're just on there every year. Gobert normally part of the first team. Giannis is normally chilling on the second team. At the end of the day, they're both some of the most impactful defenders in the NBA. And Giannis's defense in the second half of this season has just been pretty much almost like DPOY worthy. He's been that good in the second half of the year. But yeah, defensive is always the hardest, and I'm curious to see how many of these names I get right. So
I would say this too. Like, I get it. I know the Timberwolves got off to a really slow start, but if you look at how Rudy Gobert's played the second half of the season and how they went from being in the middle of the pack to back to being like one of the top 6 or 7 defenses in the NBA, it starts with him.
No, absolutely. And Carmike said Gobert going first team. So yeah, defensive team. I'm just hoping I get like the names right, and I'd be happy.
Hey, I'm with you.
Let's see, and then so why? And then I got the awards too. Don't even worry, Mo. We'll start off with a little fun one. We're gonna start off with Coach of the Year, and I think that the Coach of the Year will be Kenny Atkinson. Now I should have picked better font for this graphic, to be fair. But Kenny Atkinson, I think that at the end of the day, I think what JB Bickerstaff did was impressive. I think he took what was a really bad team last year. Granted, I think a lot of that dude just had to be with Monty Williams not meshing with the team. He took a really bad team, tripled their win total, and made the playoffs. I think it's almost impossible to overlook what Kenny Atkinson did. And to me, he did maybe the hardest thing to do in the NBA. He took a team that was already good and he pushed them to great. Finding a team that can raise your ceiling like that as a coach, it's almost impossible to do. Like, I love the ceiling raising that Kenny Atkinson showed. And I think if JB Bickerstaff and the Pistons take another leap next year, I think he wins next year. But I think this year, the award, it's going to go to Atkinson.
I think it will go to Kenny Atkinson. And I'm not saying he's not deserving, because I think he is. They didn't make any major moves, and they had the best record in the NBA going into the second half of the season until they obviously traded and acquired Hunter. But they took that core and they brought it back. And all he did was change the culture. He empowered both Darius Garland and Evan Mobley on both sides of the ball, and that made all the difference in the world, I think. And look, that's culture, that's coaching, and the fact that they all bought into it, you can see it. Everybody plays a certain role, and they know who they are on that team. So I'm saluting, giving Atkinson his flowers, but I will say this. When you become the coach of a team that won 14 games the previous season, and you flip them all the way around to be in the 6th seed in the postseason or during the regular season, I think there's a strong case for Bickerstaff to be Coach of the Year. I would actually love it if they could do a co-Coach of the Year.
See, this is one of those years, Mo, that I completely agree with that. Like, I'd love it if it was a co-Coach of the Year, because I think with Bickerstaff and Atkinson, they were both amazingly impressive in their own ways. And they should both be rewarded for what they did in all reality. And then, why don't we go to, we have a little fun and go to Most Improved Player of the Year. I know a lot of people are saying that this is going to be Cade Cunningham, but I wanted to go with the fun answer. Give me Dyson Daniels.
That is a fun answer. I like that.
Give me the guy who went from just almost obscurity. Like, nobody last year when he was on the Pelicans, half the people probably didn't even know he was on the Pelicans last year. And he broke out. And he was a star in his role. And he was just absolutely fantastic. He went from just kind of withering away in obscurity to now he's going to be an all-defensive first-teamer this year.
It's funny that when that trade went down, nobody would have told you Atlanta got the better end of the deal when they got Dyson Daniels for DeJounte Murray, right? You wouldn't have said that. And yet, Dyson Daniels plays defense the way DeJounte Murray used to play defense. Terrific on-the-ball defender, great at playing the passing lanes, versatile, can guard multiple positions. To me, that's the kind of player that you want to put beside a superstar. and help that superstar win. A great complimentary player that doesn't mind doing the dirty things that other guys won't do. So I love it that Dyson Daniels is getting his flowers. It's well deserved.
Absolutely.
Oh, I will say this though. One more thing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. We both said it's a fun answer. I'm not sure it's a right answer. I think it's a fun answer because I do think Peyton Pritchard has a strong case. I think Austin Reeves has a strong case. So it'll be interesting.
Shout out Norman Powell on that one too.
And Norman Powell. So I think there's 3 bucket getters that have strong cases.
I think Stephon Castle, give me him for Rookie of the Year. I think there are guys who got hotter and maybe peaked higher than Stephon Castle, but I think Castle is just kind of the most consistent rookie this year. He showed gradual growth throughout the year. He got better, and while I think that like what Rice did down the stretch probably peaked higher than what Castle did all year, I think that Castle didn't have the lows that a lot of these rookies did. I think he was the most consistent. He showed steady improvement. He was absolutely fantastic on the defensive end. And if he can figure out offense, he's going to be a great player. He's already a fun player already, and he hasn't figured out offense consistently yet. So I'm going to go with Castle for Rookie of the Year.
I like the way you worded that. There were some rookies that had higher peaks, but they had a lot lower lows. I think Castle was consistent throughout the season. And like you said, look, we don't even talk about this because the Spurs, obviously, their season got shortened in terms of them being a viable playoff contender with Wemby going down. Then they shut Fox down. I think they cut Castle's minutes. I think Castle's already an elite defender. He's already an elite defender. Freakish athlete, can get to the rim and finish over the top of anybody. What he lacks, he's a rookie. He's going to develop. He's going to get a more consistent jump shot. I think his bag will get a little bit tighter. The future's bright for this young man. So I'm with you. I think he is the Rookie of the Year.
I wouldn't mind it if Zachary got it either. He did great, especially down the stretch. So I'm excited to see what the future holds for him in Atlanta. Of course, 6th man of the year, give me Peyton Pritchard. Just an absolute offensive dynamo off the bench for the Boston Celtics all year. This is, to me, Mo, this was actually one of the easier selections. Like, I think it just should be Pritchard, and I think he should get it pretty comfortably. I'm not going to say unanimously, but I think he should win this one pretty comfortably. So, shout out Peyton Pritchard.
This crazy part about Peyton Pritchard is that he made such a massive leap, and not just in his shooting in terms of his consistency, but in his production. I think Peyton Pritchard has a legitimate shot to win a double-double. He could be 6th man of the year. He could also be most improved player of the year.
By the way, I love seeing you in the chat, Kyle, for sure. The man is quiet, then we bring up Peyton Pritchard, and it's like immediately like, yeah, agreed. Love you, Kyle. Yeah, Nick, shout out to Alexander Walker and Beasley. They were both fantastic. Love me some Malik Beasley.
He had a big season for the Pistons. I think he's shooting like 42% from 3 for the whole season. And look, if that shows up in the postseason, even scarier for the Knicks.
Absolutely. Defensive player of the year, I get it. The betting favorite is now Draymond, apparently.
I don't get that at all.
Apparently, what you got to do is sit there on the...
Go on your podcast and basically plead for it.
Cut a WWE style impassioned promo.
It was a promo. You're right. I didn't even say that. Right.
I respect Draymond, and I think he's well-deserving of the first team. I think he had a great defensive year. I think that Evan Mobley, though, I think that, to me, if you didn't have Draymond as the defensive player of the year like a month ago before he started this whole media tour, I don't think anything drastically changed enough to all of a sudden say, now Draymond's it over Mobley. Like, I just don't think there was that big of a jump all of a sudden in the span of when he started this media tour. Because before that, everybody was saying Mobley.
Right.
But then Draymond started like pleading for it, and now it's Draymond. And I respect Draymond, but I just don't think a lot has changed except they got Jimmy Butler, which helps shore up a lot more of the weaknesses on the defensive end. So
You just read my mind. Right. Golden State went from being middle of the pack to be like a top 5 defense the second half of the season. It wasn't because Draymond got better as a defender. It was because you acquired Jimmy Butler. That was the major change. And them together collectively made Golden State defense that much better. We're not saying Jimmy Butler should be defensive player of the year, but he's every bit as important on the Warriors this season as Draymond is on that side of the ball. So I think Draymond's worthy of being first team all NBA defense. Shouldn't be defensive player of the year.
yeah, and I completely agree. So I'm definitely looking forward to see how it goes. And of course, Mo, that brings us to the MVP award. I think it's safe to say at this point it's down to 2 players.
Al Horford and who? No, I'm just kidding.
You know, Al Horford or Julius Randle, pick your poison.
Oh, I'm going with Al Horford all day long.
Listen, that undefeated streak, like that nice hot run that the Wolves went on at the end of the year, that was clearly Julius Randle's doing.
100%.
So, for me, I picked SGA. Carmike agrees. SGA. I wouldn't say landslide, but I do agree SGA.
I agree with that. Gene and I talked about this on the morning show this morning. I pointed out that look, two things can be true. SGA is the MVP and Joker's still the best player in basketball, right? But I'm not going to let people try to water down SGA's season. It's not like his team was just a little bit better than Joker's team. There were 16 games better. They won 68 games. It's not that he's just a scorer. He actually impacts the game defensively on the other end of the floor. He's not a one-trick pony. I think he's worthy of winning the MVP. It will not be a runaway. It'll be a very close race, but I think it's going to go to SGA.
And I completely agree. I think it'll be close. I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I think, like you said, I think this is going to be a year where I do think Jokic is the best player in basketball, but the best player in basketball doesn't always win MVP. And I think this year, SGA is the MVP. I think it'll be close because of I think Jokic was just that dominant this year again that he'll make it close. But yeah, I think team records and factors will factor into the final tally. So
yeah, look, and that's what I said this morning. When a guy averages basically 30, 12, and 10, those are phenomenal numbers. That's like the greatest of triple doubles, right? That's phenomenal. And obviously, everybody knows once he's off the floor, the Nuggets become basically a lottery team. And when he's on the floor, they're a title contender. So I understand his value and what he brings to the table. I'm simply saying the formula has always been different throughout the years. SGA, he's reaping to me of the other formula. He's the best player on the team with the best record. Again, though, he's not a lot more than Joker does. It's just what it is.
Absolutely. We've seen it time and time again where the best player doesn't win MVP. But yeah, that's my prediction for the awards. Like I said, the only one I didn't have was Clutch Player of the Year because I'll let any first-time viewer know I think Clutch Player of the Year is just kind of a funny award because, like, what's the narrative for clutch play? Is it just who scores the most clutch points? But there's more to being clutch than just points. There's defense, there's rebounding.
Yeah.
There's so much to factor in.
So many variables. I have a problem with Clutch Player of the Year, Brett. It's one of those things that bother me the same way plus minus bothers me. Like, there's guys that you'll look at the end of the game and go, well, he had a plus minus of 27. And then you'll go, he had 3 points. He was 1 for 4 from the field. He had 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, and he was a plus 27. And I'm like, what is he sending out? Good vibes? Like, how did he get a plus 27? Like, I hate plus minus.
I think plus minus is fine in a vacuum. I just think it's not something you can really rely on, by itself. I'm not going to judge a player because his plus minus is crappy or because there's so many variables of that. You could shoot 10 of 10 with 30 points and you can have the greatest game of your life, but if the other 78% on contested threes and you get outscored by like 10 and you're a minus 10,
Right.
fantastic. Like,
That's
it's
what
just
I mean.
it's just one of those things for me that you have to contextualize. And that's my issue with Clutch Player Award. And I think the problem with that is, like, it almost feels like every year we just kind of, it's like the award makers. They just Google, like, who has the most clutch points in the NBA this year? Oh, it's De'Aaron Fox, Clutch Player of the Year. It's Jalen Brunson, or he's top 2, but he's from New York. Let's give it to him. Like, it just doesn't feel like it's an award that
You know
you
what's
can
crazy,
really
Tim?
quantify. Yeah.
Right, because think about that. I love you point that out, because I think DeRozan has been in the running for clutch player multiple times, and I'm not here to knock him. He's had a really good career, but how often has he been on the other side of a team not even making the playoffs? Do you know what I'm saying? Like I just think that it's a stat that there's so many variables. Who's on the floor with him? Who said it? You know what I mean? Like who's getting stops defensively? The rebound. I just think there's more to it than just the clutch. I don't like that. I don't like that award. Plus minus to me is it has value, but then in a lot of ways there's so much nuance within it. Analytics I'm good with, but there's some parts of analytics that I'm watching the game. I'm seeing what I'm seeing, and then you tell me, well, he had a plus minus of 28, and I'm like, right. But when he came into the game, they were up 18. When he went to the bench, they were down 10. I don't understand that.
The player who best comes through clutch for his teammates in the clutch, but like, I get that, but at the same time, like, are we going to count the guys who, like, for example, are consistently getting stops in the clutch? Or is it just offensive based? The guys who are snagging the clutch rebounds?
Clutch
or is it just going to be
defender.
Right, like, that's my problem. I feel like half the time they just skip the defensive side of the ball and just go straight to who has the most points. Like, this part I know it starts with like 5 minutes left in the fourth, but I don't know. It just feels like they focus on one side of the ball too much. And I feel like that just misses a lot of these different things about actually being clutch, because you got to be clutch on both sides of the ball.
I just came up with a new stat. Clutch defender. There you go. We're going to do it. It's going to kick in the last 5 minutes. How many stops this guy gets, how many rebounds, steals, deflections. Clutch defender.
Right, and they might as well rename the award this Clutch Buckets of the Year. Like, so, and then, Mo, we were talking about dropping our 11 through 20th best NBA players on the show, because we did 1 through 10 already.
Did.
Well, don't even worry. I got my 11 through 20. And, we can see if you guys agree, disagree. No. Oh, wait, we got a question first. How do we beat the Pacers? I've been wanting to ask. That's actually, to me, it's really simple. It's not simple, but it is. The key to beating the Pacers for us is to slow the game down.
There it is.
Like, we have to play at our pace. We have to get to the free throw line. We have to execute in the half court, and we got to be like really detailed on defense, because let's be real, you can run the Bucks off the floor in transition. So our transition defense has to be on point, but our best defense against them is going to be our half court offense.
Facts.
If we're going to be clanging, if we're going to shoot 3 of 20 on long rebounds and we're just going to let them run, they're going to run us right out of the gym. So to me, it's going to come down to pace. And the big thing too, the Bucks' problem a lot of the times is their role players come up short in the playoffs. I've watched playoff after playoff where the role players will just go ice cold from 3. Giannis is going to draw attention. He's going to draw 3-4 guys. Dame's going to draw a double. He normally does. Can Bobby Portis step up his game?
I'm calling it, Brett. Kevin Porter Jr. is going to have a big series. Porter Jr. is going to be big. I'm calling it.
Yeah, and let's say, Dame's going to be out the first game. Okay, it's going to come down to exactly what you just said. Can Kevin Porter step up like he has been lately? So, to me, the biggest key for the Bucks is going to be slowing down the game and executing in the half court. you got to limit transition opportunities because we can beat the Pacers in a game of half-court offense. If we turn it into a game of transition, we're going to get run off the floor and lose every game by 15 because we're just too old for that.
I agree with that. I would also add that because you're going to make it into a grinded out game about half court execution, when you're on offense, you need to involve Halliburton in every action you can involve him in, so you can take away his legs on the other end of the floor.
I completely agree with that too. Hey, it's like I said, we might have Dame back by game 2 or 3, but he's going to be finding his legs out from under him. I'm okay. Like at the end of the day, we do have Giannis, and he gives me confidence if he's healthy that we can beat anybody. But yeah, we have to just make sure to go at another like problem I watch with the Bucks a lot of the times in these like big time games is they'll they'll go after the wrong guys defensively. I've watched, they'll like half the time just ISO their matchup, which when Giannis has the best defender, like he can still score, but it's just a lot more work. Make sure we're moving. Let's just not stop the ball on the first matchup. Let's get Halliburton involved in these actions. Let's get these weaker defenders involved in these actions. So, like I said, at the end of the day with Milwaukee, I think it's going to come down to half-court execution. And I would say rebounding. Our rebounding can be pretty suspect at times, but the Pacers don't necessarily have a lot of elite rebounders that I'm too worried about. So
They don't. Look, it's real simple. You pointed it out. This series literally will come down to pace. If we're running up and down the floor, Milwaukee's in trouble. If they make them play offense in the half court and have to actually execute, they're going to win. I got Bucks in 6.
Hey, in the words of the great Brandon Jennings, Bucks in 6. I love it. Lakers in 4. That's a little too rich for my blood. I do think the Wolves take a couple at least.
I think if Julius Randle shows up, Lakers in 4. No, I'm kidding. I think if Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle both play at a high level, it could be a series. I'm trying to be pragmatic. It could be a series. It can be. But because the Lakers do have flaws, but I think the Lakers' best defense is kind of like what you said about your Bucks. The Lakers' best defense is their offense because Minnesota doesn't have a lot of scoring options. They don't have a lot of guys that can create shots. You get Anthony Edwards and you have Julius Randle to an extent. Nobody else can get their own. So I feel like if I'm the Lakers, I'm involving Rudy Gobert in pick and rolls because I want to get him away from the paint. And I want more spacing. I'm going to involve him in every pick and roll action I can. I'd rather him defend me in space than have to get to the rim and try to get past him.
You know what's funny is, hey, I will give him credit too. Rudy Gobert's been heating up at the right time.
He had 30-something points.
Yeah, he had a 35-point game. He's been averaging like 19 and 17 down the stretch.
Right.
He's been cooking lately. I think it'll be interesting how to attack that, right? Because obviously the Lakers have some small ball lineups that they can use to try to shoot Rudy Gobert off the floor. But then you're also giving up a solid 6-7 inches on Rudy Gobert, which, by the way, obviously you're not just going to dump it to Rudy and let him cook a height advantage. But at the same time, like, you can still throw it over the top, and he's still good enough to catch lobs over a height advantage. So
the Wolves have to make them pay when the Lakers try to guard him with Rui Hachimura or when they try to guard him with LeBron. Now, the LeBron thing is different, right? Yes, Rudy Gobert is a taller man, but LeBron is actually bigger and stronger than Rudy Gobert. He can't overpower LeBron. So they have to be smart in how they attack LeBron when he's guarding Rudy Gobert.
Just pull LeBron out of the paint. Rudy spot up in the corner. Kidding, by the way.
Or throw it into him and let him shoot that fadeaway. It's money. It's money.
Now, if Jokic is guarding him, it's barbecue chicken. Apparently. Hey, listen. I'm Rudy Gobert's biggest soldier. I love Rudy. I'm a big Rudy Gobert fan. I think he's maybe the most overhated player in the entire NBA.
Oh, it's no question. It's not even close. I think maybe a distant second would be Jason Tatum, and I don't even know why that is.
Right. And by overhated, obviously I mean like players that are actually really good that get too much hate.
Right.
Like, and I think Rudy Gobert is number one and Tatum is number two. And it's weird to me, like how those two guys get like so much hate. I just don't understand it. But, let's see, like I said, Mo, tomorrow morning we'll break down some playoff matchups. It's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Well, why don't we talk about top 20 basketball players? Well, I made this list. Mo's actually says he'll show it to you guys. And by the way, obviously went through 1 through 10 earlier, so we'll recap it for you. 1 through 5 got Jordan, LeBron, Kareem, Magic, and listen, this might not be popular with a lot of people, and that's okay. Give me Tim Duncan. I'm a big Tim Duncan guy. I think the fact that he went, 17 years, won 5 titles, never had a losing season, and just anchored a franchise and dynasty just for that long as he was there. I think that's just such a hard thing to do, and people just underrate it, right? Because he didn't win a chip in all those, but the fact is that, like, if you had Tim Duncan on your team, you had a winning record for, 15, 17 years that he played? That is crazy enough in itself.
I think it is crazy, but he's deserving of where you rank him. I feel like because he doesn't have the greatest highlight package, we almost overlook him and forget about him. It's almost the inverse of what Steph is, right? Steph has an amazing highlight reel because Steph has all these moon shots from 45 feet away with guys contesting shots, and Duncan doesn't have anything like that. And you almost forget how great a basketball player he was. Like, it's not that he just won 5 titles. I believe he's a multiple-time Finals MVP. He's a multiple-time regular season MVP. He's basically a staple on the all defensive team for probably the breadth of his career. The only thing he never did win is he never won DPOY, which I think he was deserving of in a couple of years. So, look, putting Tim Duncan at 5. I don't think that should shock anybody.
I will say he should. I still think he should have. I definitely think he should have had at least 1 DPOY. That's like the biggest travesty in awards history. Like,
I agree.
Listen. I respect Marcus Camby, but I think that's the one Timmy probably should have won. But I'm not going to sit here and play Marcus Camby stole Tim Duncan's award, because then I start sounding like Shaq. So, but I do think he should have had one.
Yeah, don't sound like Shaq. No, I agree. But look, we agree on the top 5. I'm sure. I don't remember it perfectly, but I believe number 6 was either Larry Bird or Kobe.
Yeah, I think he's right there. Don't worry, Shaq.
There
got
he
him
is.
at 7 behind Kobe.
Who's hollering for Shaq? Because he should be lucky in the top 10.
Carmike, Shaq not top 5 is wild. I don't think it's that wild. I think Shaq had
Shaq not top 5 is wild. Did you watch his career? Did you watch his career? There was what he did in Orlando when he put up monstrous numbers, but didn't win anything. And then he went to the Lakers, dominant, had the 3-peat. But what did he do after the 3-peat? He went to Miami and was the second best player on that team. I'm just saying, the main reason why he didn't win that MVP the year that Nash won, you can't win the MVP and not even be the best player on your own team. It doesn't work that way.
I think the hard part with Shaq is the fact that if we were doing this, by the way, like the greatest peaks in NBA history.
Oh, he might have the greatest. No argument.
Shaq probably just won at that point.
If you look at his 3-year, I would even say 4-year period. They didn't have to win it every year, but you're right. Greatest peaks, if we were ranking players on greatest peaks, Shaq's 1, LeBron's 2, and then I think Jordan's 3, right?
And and you know what's funny, Mo? Like, we did this before where we ranked every position's greatest peak, and we both agree that the best peak at the center position was just Shaq.
No argument for me.
But again, the problem with Shaq compared to these other guys is obviously from his rookie year to 04, fantastic. But then the fall off, once we get to the end of Miami, and you can go, Well, he won a ring as the second best player. Yes, he was a 13 a game scorer in those finals. He wasn't the same old dominant. He didn't look like the same old dominant Shaq. And then he went to Phoenix, and then Cleveland, and I have to keep track of like the entirety of the career, and that like especially after the finals win, and I don't give me the he was an all-star in Phoenix. I'm not. No, stop it. Get some help.
That was a pity all-star. What was he, 17 points, 8 rebounds. Like you wanted to know how you slow down the Phoenix Suns? You trade for Shaq.
He ruined the team's whole identity right there.
He killed the Suns. He killed them.
No, and like I said, I'm not arguing that Shaq didn't have the most dominant peak. The problem is like
right. You're talking about what he averaged, but there's the other side of his career. You know what I'm saying? Like what did Shaq look like? Let's not even go back to the very end of his career. Just go back to what happened against the Pistons. Like he had good numbers, but his numbers they were the kind of numbers that had zero impact on the series.
And
they got dominated completely. I'm a Laker fan, but they got destroyed, and he had no impact on that series at all. Let's keep it a buck.
But like, I can kind of do the same thing with this question, though, right? Like, I can do the same thing with these top 5, though, right? Like, who locked up MJ?
Right,
contain Bron, Kareem,
and let's
or Magic.
Fair. Right, you can say who locked up Shaq in the playoffs. Well, let me remind you who he went against in the finals. He went against Dikembe Mutombo, he went against Rick Smiths, and he went against Todd McCullough. Now, Mutombo's a defensive player of the year, but no one thought Mutombo was going to be able to stop that 300-pound monster. But dominating Rick Smiths, that shouldn't come as a shock. Dominating Todd McCullough, he's supposed to dominate Todd McCullough. He's Todd McCullough. Look, Shaq has the greatest peak, but I'm sorry. He's in the top 10, but he's in the top 10. I think he's in the top 10, Brett, primarily because of that greatest peak, right?
I think that was the first 12 years, like from rookie year to Orlando, all the way up to like his final year in LA. That first year in Miami, I'd say okay, we can go all the way up to that part. I think that stretch is what has him in the top 10. Yeah, but like MJ,
let me ask Carmike this: you think is Shaq in the conversation for greatest all time? What case does Shaq have for greatest of all time?
Peak.
Yeah, but that peak is 4 years. That peak is 4 years. That like he was a terrific player in Orlando, but when he was like out and out dominating the league, it was a stretch when he was with the Lakers. All I'm saying is, I mean, greatest player of all time? I don't think so. You ain't gonna be greatest player of all time, bro. Like I think his peak is what he can stand on, and not to mention, for somebody to watch him his entire career, if he played against another center that can score, they ate as much as he ate because he didn't play defense. So I'm just saying, we can give him his flowers, but we're not gonna overrate the guy.
Yeah, I think the only guy you can like kind of sort of try to make an argument that he's over in the top 5 is Timmy. But I think Timmy didn't peak as high as Shaq because nobody peaked as high as Shaq.
Fair.
But Timmy coming in and being an all-NBA player in his rookie year and ending his career on the all-defensive team while winning a title in his second to last year and MVPs, like, this is a guy that has just also peaked insanely high, but he also just kind of started out on a level that none of these other guys can touch. Like, how many of these other guys can say in the rookie year, yeah, I was on the all-NBA team. I was playing at that level.
Oh, well, that guy in the middle can say that.
Yeah, well, yeah, like, it's like him and Kareem are, like, I think they're the only two on this whole, like, list that can actually say that.
And let's not forget, that Pistons team that destroyed the Lakers, Shaq's Lakers, Tim Duncan's Spurs beat them.
So, yeah, no, I respect Shaq, but unless you want to argue him, I think the highest you can go with him is 5 if you want to argue him over Timmy and Kobe, but I'm comfortable with him at 7.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So, and then obviously rounding out the top 10. Hey, what's up, Jory? Glad to see you here. Say, rounding out the top 10, Larry Bird, Steph Curry, and Hakeem Olajuwon. I do think that maybe as soon as after this year, like, I think Steph's going to end up passing Bird sooner rather than later. So I think
Well, No, I'm with you. I think he's going to add more accolades to his resume, and he will eventually pass Bird. There's some people that already have Steph in the top 5, which I can't do that. But again, I don't like the beauty of Steph, LeBron, Durant, and some of these older terrific stars is their stories are not done. They're still being told. What if Steph wins another title or LeBron wins another title? Yeah, it just pushes them farther up the top 10.
Jory says Shaq's discipline is why he isn't higher primarily.
Or lack thereof, you mean. Yeah.
And Mo, I think we could see somebody else getting knocked out of the top 10 here soon. I'm obviously talking about Hakeem the Dream. And
maybe
it's going to be tough, but, and this might be controversial, Mo, and that's okay. I'm here for controversy because I think Nikola Jokic pre-merger, and remind you guys, this list is all, post-merger. We're doing everything after the merger, so right. Guys like Wilt, Bill, Jerry, Big O, and other guys.
Right. Look,
like
those are silver dollar icons, but we don't have them in this because this is, like you said, this is post-merger. So we did not forget them.
Yeah, no, I didn't forget any of those legends because if they were in here, guys like Wilt, Bill, Jerry, the Big O, and if we're, by the way, another honorable mention, if we're including the ABA, Dr. J would be pushing a lot of these guys back.
Facts.
But post-merger, 11 through 15, Jokic, give me KG, KD, Karl Malone, and Giannis Antetokounmpo.
I think Giannis is going to overtake Karl Malone and KD. He might end up like right behind Joker.
I think, and I think Giannis actually probably has I think Giannis could have an argument now over Karl Malone, but Karl Malone is also just an insane player. Like, I get people don't like him off the court, but on the basketball court,
right,
just an absolute all-timer.
Yeah, look, it's interesting because we talk about how things can shift. You could very well have both Joker and Giannis pushing a couple of guys out of the top 10.
No, absolutely. And then, of course, 16 through 20. Of course, I got to include a couple more controversial names here, too. I don't even think they're controversial, really. I think the only controversy you have is if you think Wade is over James Harden, which I actually think that's a legitimate argument to be had.
I think Wade is a better basketball player. You can tell me who's a more prolific scorer. I'm going to tell you who's the better basketball player. It's D Wade.
It's so tough for me, Mo. I at this point, it's almost I actually think that I'd probably just mix these up, and that's okay.
So like obviously Harden's won an MVP, and you can't take that away. And he is one of the most prolific scorers in NBA history, maybe one of the greatest, if not the greatest, one of the 3 greatest ISO scorers ever. But I would say this: Wade's Finals MVP has more value than his regular season MVP.
Fair, and I think what always gets me with James Harden, the hard part is I think James Harden underrated almost at this point. I think it's becoming underrated. Is just how effective he is longevity wise too. Because at this point in their careers, like Dwayne Wade is like laboring on like the Bulls and Cavs and is getting ready out of the league. Like
no
James
argument.
Harden is leading like a 5th seed into the playoffs. I think that you can actually argue them both ways. Personally, I'm okay either way. It's funny, Mo, because on my all-time shooting guard list, I always have Wade over Harden, so I genuinely think I just mix the two up. But I think this way is actually pretty fine, too, because I think you can argue this either way. Although, granted, I would personally go Wade over Harden, so I'm actually going to disagree with my own list here.
I would go Wade over Harden only because Wade was also an all-NBA defender. And I think he's still the all-time leader in block shots for a guard. So I just think he's more impactful on both ends of the floor. But you pointed out something that we only seem to talk about it in one other argument, but it needs to come up in other arguments. Harden's longevity should count because Dwayne Wade at age 34, 35 was not Dwayne Wade. Harden at age 34, 35 was one of the top point guards in the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is my top 16 through 20, except like I said, take Wade and Harden and just like flip them. So, although granted, like he could still pass them, like it's funny, Mo, like because James Harden's a weird one. I wonder, like, what would it take for him to actually pass Wade in most people's minds, or is it one of those things that if they had made up their minds, it's probably over by now?
I'm not like that. The Clippers were to go on some kind of amazing run, and it's not incredible or impossible. It'd be incredible. But what if they did, and they went to the finals and they won the finals, and James Harden, let's say he's named, even if he's not named finals MVP, let's just say the Clippers won it all. James Harden would be a key cog on a championship winning team. I don't know if you look at everything he's done in terms of his accolades and his scoring titles in the regular season, it's close already. We both agree it's already close. I think him winning a title, I think that would put him over Wade.
A consistent playoff run where he doesn't disappear. It's weird.
Agreed. I totally agree. I was just that's all I'm saying. I totally agree.
It's weird with him, right? Like, yeah, he's just so streaky when it comes to this time of year. Like,
maybe he could be. If we put him in a different category, say James Harden is arguably the second or third greatest shooting guard in the regular season, right? Like in the regular season, his regular seasons, if you just stop right there, there's not a lot of guys that can compete with his numbers in the regular season.
Like I said, I already think when it comes to James Harden that he's already insane enough that he's already, to me, like one of the 20 best players post merger, and I already think that James Harden is already the fourth greatest shooting guard of all time. Let's see. Okay, so this is including everybody. Okay. Jordan, LeBron, Kareem, Magic, Wilt, Bill Russell, Larry Bird, Tim Duncan, Oscar, Kobe, Shaq, KD, Hakeem, Dr. J, Moses Malone, Steph Curry, Dirk.
I don't hate that list. I would I know we've included the pre-merger guys, and I'm okay with that. I would make the case though that Steph could still be moved up even if you included them. I think Steph could be moved because what makes him, to me, a top 10 player is he's not just the greatest shooter. I think people always lead with the greatest shooter of all time thing. He also literally changed the way basketball is played now. That has to count for something.
So, yeah, let's see. We all agree with the top four. We all have the same top four.
Yeah, I think the top four is you can lock that in for right now.
You know what's funny, Mo? I think if you're going to put Bill Russell on a list, I almost think you just put Tim Duncan right next to where Bill Russell is.
I like that.
Because they're like almost they had different strengths and weaknesses, obviously. Like Tim Duncan, much better scorer than Bill Russell, but Bill Russell was a much better passer than Tim Duncan. But overall, in terms of impact, like, they almost felt very similar in a sense that if you had them on their team, you just weren't losing very many games. Like, I think the only difference between the two is obviously you can talk about championships, but also Tim Duncan played in a league where there's just more teams and a lot more competition. So,
yeah, I'm not taking Oscar Robertson ahead of Kobe Bryant. I'm not taking Oscar Robertson ahead of Steph Curry. I'm good with him being in the top 17 or whatever, but I think both of those guys actually, now that I think about it, I can't take the big O over Kobe, Shaq, Olajuwon, Steph. Like, he's probably like somewhere behind Moses Malone.
This is the ESPN list. Okay, this is why it's throwing me. Okay. Yeah, and I think Steph clears Moses Malone.
Yeah.
Dr. J, Hakeem, KD, Shaq. Like, I think he clears Oscar.
Yeah. He's no worse than 10, right? He's no worse than 10.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I keep looking at. I respect and I like Moses Malone, but like I keep looking at him at like 15. Like, what is he doing up so high? Like,
That's pretty high.
I like Moses Malone and I respect him, but it's almost like, what is a
And you-
polar bear doing in Arlington, Texas? Like, it just feels like he's a couple spots too high.
And look, and he's a great player. Is it a slap in the face if we said that in our minds Moses Malone probably a top 25, top 30 player, right? I don't think that's a slap in the face, is it?
No, absolutely not. Like, yeah, he's a great player and he helped the 76ers win and he went into a finals and outplayed Kareem. Like, he was
He did
great.
He did that.
But yeah, it just feels like he's a little too high. Giannis, especially if you're including 60 guys, because then I think we're just underrating Jerry West in this regard.
And that's really far back for Jerry West, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Jerry West is probably closer to 16. I think, you can Giannis, if you add in all the old guys, is probably actually about right. You can move him up above like Dirk, I think.
You said Duncan and Russell should be near each other, right? I feel that West and Oscar should be near each other.
Yeah. So, like, no, I love Moses, and it almost feels like that if we're talking a top 20 list, I would probably put him in the top 20, but I feel like he should probably be like 20.
Yeah. And that's not a slap. That's not a slap in the face. That's acknowledging that how great a player he was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He was
100%. I believe he won a finals MVP. I believe he won 2 or 3 regular season MVPs.
Yeah,
I got you.
But yeah, Dr. J belongs here if you're including ABA. If you're including his ABA, absolutely. No doubt about it.
If you include Doc's ABA, Doc's in the top 15.
Yeah, when I did a ranking before with like everybody, and I had Doc at 13, including his ABA rankings.
Yeah, if you put his ABA in there, then he becomes a 3-time champion. I think he becomes a 4 or 5-time MVP. Like, his numbers change dramatically, as does his accolades.
Say Stephen A. Smith versus Matt Shiba will be interesting. Are they feuding? Are we having a beef? I love beef.
Is Matt Ishba coming on First Take? Because that'll be fun.
And you know what?
You know who I want? I want Nico Harrison to go on First Take.
I'm tired of Nico Harrison. I'm done with Nico. I'm so done with him. I can't. If I have to hear, well, guys, defense wins championships one more time, I'm going to like travel down to Dallas just to slap him. I can't do it with him.
So I understand trying to cover your own, you know what, but dude, he just took you to the finals last year. He just took you to the finals last year. And there's no player without flaw. Not Michael Jordan, not Magic Johnson, not Kareem, not LeBron. No, Luka's not a great defender. He's not. But what he is he's such an elite and dominant offensive player that he can take a team to the finals. Think about that. There's guys that are two-way players that can't do what he's done because he's that elite offensively.
Yeah, and it's tiresome to me, Mo, and I hate it because I think he paid like the announcers for the Dallas play-in game because they go, Nico Harrison is fearless. Like, no, he's not. He's a coward that's hiding behind in a tunnel right now because he can't face his own decisions. If he was so fearless, why isn't he just coming out and sitting courtside with everybody else?
And if he was so fearless, why do you keep doing these press conferences reaffirming why you traded him? Like, you only need to do the one and say, well, we don't think he's a great defender and where defense wins champions. You could have stopped there. But since you said that in that one press conference, you've come out with more like, no, I have no reservations about trading him. And like, dude, you got to stop. Your team is a lottery team. Even if you win and you get to be the 8th seed, which doesn't benefit your team at all, by the way, you're going to lose. You're going to get swept in the first round. I don't get that.
I didn't even realize that. I'll look more into that. We'll talk about that tomorrow because that should be interesting. So, Ashiba Stephen A. Smith rivalry in 2025. I didn't realize that's something I needed, but I'm all here for it.
Well, he did.
Yeah.
He did say it was the worst owner of all time, or something like that.
And this is the part that bothers me because when, like, where was this energy this offseason? Defense wins championships. So, in order to exemplify that, I'm going to sign a 75-year-old Klay Thompson with 105-year-old knees that can't really stay in front of anybody anymore. I'm going to sign a three-point specialist and, Najee Marshall, who can give you defense sometimes. But, like, that's the funny part. They pull this whole defense wins championships. But guess what? Where was that energy this offseason? It wasn't there. The only thing you gave, he tried to pull out this agenda. It's to beat the Boston Celtics. So what do? We just give them another target by adding Klay Thompson. I'm not saying Klay Thompson is a bad player, but he's a three-point specialist at this point in his career.
Correct.
And a team like Boston that has 5-out spacing and has 5 guys that can attack, to try to say that defense wins championships and pull that move, I respect Klay, but I don't respect, Nico coming out and all of a sudden trying to, 180 the script to cover his own ass. It's annoying. And now you're, shocked that people are booing you. Yeah, congratulations. Of course people are booing. And mind you, I'm a little more passionate about the Dallas Mavericks. If anybody doesn't know, they're my second team behind the Milwaukee Bucks, because when I was getting into basketball, I got into it partially because of Dirk. By the way, during his closed door presser, I'm going to make choices on what's best for the Dallas Mavericks. It doesn't matter what the fans think. And then he goes, doesn't matter what Dirk Nowitzki thinks. Because Dirk, voices displeasure about being unhappy about some of the guys that they let go over the offseason. And that's what drives me wild. You have a statue outside of your stadium that says, loyalty never fades. Except your way of showing that is by alienating your fan base, alienating Dirk, and screwing over your team's future harder than Lily Phillips on a Saturday. There's just nothing left. Yeah, trying to make this win now move. Guess what? The team's not good enough to win now. The team's not good enough to win in the future, and you don't have picks. Well, we have a 2029 Lakers first, and we still have pick swaps. Cool, congratulations. Good luck getting your win now piece at, pick 25, because that always works so well. It doesn't make sense. I'm just tired of this clown. He hasn't been consistent with his train of thinking, and moves are two different things. And he's just backtracking at all times. Just admit that, hey, this is why we traded Luka, but instead we have to make up this narrative that defense wins championships. Even though you're in the finals, you have to push up this. He's about to turn into the Big Show in about a season from now, weighing 400 pounds, apparently. I think that's the part that's driving me up a wall is the Mavericks preach loyalty and all these other things, defense wins championships, but then they do the complete opposite. They're being completely hypocritical in this entire process.
Agreed. Look, I will say this: when you're on the other side of the worst trade in NBA history, I guess you can't shut up.
And honestly, Mo, that's all he needs to do at this point. It's not hard. Just don't talk about it. If somebody asks you about the trade, Mo, you know what you do? We made the choice that we think was in the best future, direction of our franchise at the time.
And leave it there.
But he explains himself, and it just gets worse and worse and worse every time he does, because everybody just looks that much more incompetent. At the rate they're going, they're going to end up alienating their fans. They alienated both their franchise icons. Obviously, Luka's going to want nothing to do with them. You alienated Dirk. And now if you're a fan, like, Mo, if you're a Dallas Mavericks fan, like, how could they really sell you to come back next year?
Yeah, look, the amazing part is after the trade, they actually raised their ticket prices, which I thought was hilarious. Like, you actually have the stones to raise your ticket prices after what you just did? I'm not sure how you get your fan base to get excited about the team you're going to put on the floor. Anybody that knows the Kyrie Irving injury, you already know Kyrie Irving's not going to be available for the start of the season. And we don't really know when he'll be back because that's a tough injury to come back from. And when you come back from it, it usually takes you a whole year, and then you're what you used to be or close to what you used to be. So they're going to be without him. You've got AD, you've got Lively, and you got Gafford, which is great. You have three impactful bigs, but you have nothing on the perimeter. I don't know what that and Klay Thompson, as you pointed out, will be a year older. The future, a lot of things for Dallas, it ain't bright.
Yeah, and that's the traded Luka for a piece of candy. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a thing. Like Cuban,
you should have got Austin Reeves. You should have got Austin Reeves,
right?
Too.
Like Cuban, like obviously we know he made a mistake by dealing Steve Nash before he was a superstar. But the thing with Cuban is once you broke out for him, he was very loyal to you, and he would do everything in his power to build around you.
Right.
Like he knew like he would almost owe it to the fans, owe it to the superstar that hey, it doesn't matter how long it takes. You're a Mav for life, and we're going to build around you. They did it with Dirk. Cuban definitely was going to do it for Luka. Hell, the guy said that if he either had to trade Luka or divorce his wife. He said catch him at the divorce court in the morning. Like, that man was fiercely loyal to his superstars once they broke out. Obviously, we can, they had Jason Kidd, pre-breakout, but at the end of the day, like, Cuban gave you a reason to care, and I think that's the thing. He gave you hope. He's like, we didn't win this year, but we're going to keep Dirk, and we're going to bring back a new team, and we will try again next year. And you saw that improvement, and he was doing the same with Luka. We didn't win this year, but we're going to bring back a new team, and we're going to make you proud next year. And I think in the last year that, Cuban had majority control, I think that was their Western Conference Finals year. So he gave you, I think Cuban was able to inspire and sell hope to the fan base. And Nico and Patrick Dumont have summoned the 12 plagues of Egypt on the fan base because nobody wants anything to do with them. And Dallas has been even more in disarray since that happened. So, but, at the end of the day, that's all we got for you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And like I said, this is going to be part 1 of our quadruple double. We got tomorrow, you can catch us on the morning show. Saturday, WrestleMania watch along on the Meaty Boys podcast page. That'll actually be our first. By the way, I just want to say, thank you to everybody who follows us, and especially on the Meaty Boys podcast page. We just hit over 100 followers. So our first live stream on that page will be the WrestleMania watch-along. So I'm looking forward to that, but you can catch us on the morning show tomorrow too. And on Sunday, WrestleMania night too. So we're going to have a busy weekend. We'll be here all weekend for you guys.
You know what's crazy? I wish that everybody that's tuning in, that's in the chat, that's tuning in, watching us right now, I wish they had privy to the discussions that we have in the Wire chat. like as entertaining as what we do on And1, the wire-to-wire chats are wild. They are insane.
No, it is a lot of fun in there. Not gonna lie, I love talking to Jory, Kyle, Carmike. It's always a great time in the wire-to-wire chat.
It really is.
So. And I might have a surprise watch along for you guys on Saturday as well. You might be able to catch me. I might do Bucks Pacers game 1 on Saturday. I just got to make sure I'm awake. It's going to be a long Saturday night. I'm going to be out till 2 in the morning the night before. So I'm hoping to be there here to do a watch along too on Saturday. So we'll see how that goes. Mo, anything you want to add before we get up on out of here?
Appreciate everybody for coming out. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. The chat was live. Love the comments. Thank you all so much. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, catch us tomorrow morning next on the morning show, 8 a.m. Central. And, hope to see you there. We'll be breaking down some playoff matchups for you. So at the end of the day, we thank you for tuning in and hope you enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you for tuning in to the And One podcast. If you like our content, you can find more on the Wire to Wire Podcast Network on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify. Want more And One? Find it on Wire to Wire. Like and share our Facebook page and join the And One Discord. Grab the link to join from our Facebook. Thank you for tuning in and have a wonderful day.